It's time for 41 is the Mic, a weekly Chiefs podcast with Nick Jacobs of KSHB 41 and Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mic starts now.
Yes, everyone, welcome back. You are with 41 is the Mic. I am Matt Derrick with Chiefs Digest alongside championship ring enthusiast Nick Jacobs from KSHB 41. Nick, are you getting fitted for your championship ring? Your championship replica ring?
No, unfortunately, no. They have not contacted me, and I'm not going to spend a dime on it. Doesn't mean I wouldn't love having one. I mean, if they want to, just as honorary for covering the team all those years as a media member. I mean, I technically, by company policy, I have to say no. I just realized that. So, never mind.
Oh, those darn company policies. They get in the way of everything. All the fun that we want to have.
I did a learning module on that falls under that. So,
I know I've already written about it, but I did have to just make sure that we've got all of our numbers right and everything. 529 diamonds, 38 rubies. All the numbers are significant, Nick, so I assume the 38 rubies are for L'Jarius Sneed, but your mileage may vary. Let's see. What did we come in at? Was it 13.4 carats? I believe 14.8, excuse me, 14.8 carats for those of you who are scoring at home. What are your thoughts about the ring, Nick? I mean, it looks pretty cool. It's huge, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, until I see one up close, I don't necessarily, it's not seeing a video of it isn't as impressive as when you see them in person. And when Dane Hughes comes in, I get to see he's had the Super Bowl rings because he knows how much I appreciate being able to see it. I'm not disrespectful and like, hey, can I wear it? No, I just want to see it and just that's awesome, man. So like I don't know. Seeing it when you see it in person, it's really each one's really impressive. So I'm sure this one's just going to be just as impressive as the previous two. But I think the thing that's always going to stick out about that ring, in my opinion, is the back-to-back on there. Because there's only 8 or 9 teams total in the NFL that'll ever be able to say that. So that's what makes that ring to me so unique. And I know the players. Some will admit they talk about it. Some don't, based on this week. But if you can get a Super Bowl ring that says three-peat on it, that's
be one of a kind.
That's historic, man. So like that, I know that shouldn't be the motivating drive and factor behind it. And I know how tough it is to win in the NFL and to be able to evolve the way the Chiefs have year after year to be able to stay in the AFC Championship games. And to get to Super Bowl. But man, that's like you said, that's such a one-of-a-kind ring if you can get one where you get to literally put the words three-peat on it.
Yeah, you mentioned the back-to-back aspect, and yes, if you're looking at the front of the ring, there's the 4 Super Bowl trophies on there for what the franchise has won. The base of those trophies are made of 19 custom-cut baguette diamonds that represent that the Chiefs are the first team in 19 years to win back-to-back Super Bowls. Nice. So I guess if they become the first team to win the three-peat, Nick, I mean, there would be 0 diamonds for the last team to do that. So
I don't know.
I don't know what the absence of diamonds on a ring.
Do you know what you have then? You know what you do for that one?
Well, what do you do?
You have a ruby. You have the red rubies.
You can throw a ruby.
Because the Chiefs would technically be the only ones to do it at that point. So that's how you make that unique, is the red rubies.
Yeah, I'm sure if we get a three-peat ring, Nick, it's going to be out of this world. I do hope. I'm sure there was a number of people who noted it. I noted friend of the podcast. I know. Josh Briscoe noted it that in the graphics that they have the wrong seed for the Miami Dolphins on the ring. So kind of hoping that that's okay, that they fix that and everything. But there's many nice touches. I mean, they obviously have the Norma Hunt patch is on the inside of the ring. It's on the opposite side from the Lamar Hunt patch. That's kind of a very cool deal. Mm-hmm. I thought the 28 diamonds, symbolic of the defense, holding every opponent under 28 points. pretty cool. But I'm not gonna lie. I mean, when I opened it up with the email up with all the graphics in it and everything that was on those rings, when you flip open the face of that ring and you see Tom and Jerry, that blew me away. That was pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, because I know Mark Donovan had said to Mick on the red carpet when they're doing an interview, I think, that there was something about it that was always going to be able to relate to Vegas and always tie into Vegas. So I wonder if that's what that meant or if it was a Super Bowl logo, but I'm assuming it's one of those two touches inside the ring.
Well, and one thing, and and two quotes kind of that there stand out to me. One, Clark Hunt, said that once again, the rings, they always want to tell a story. So, it's like, hey, there's memories throughout the season that this ring tells, and you can definitely get it. And the little touches that, once again, I mean, there's some things that did with the other rings too, which is, having how many Lombardis are on the ring or how many years you've been with the team and how many rings you were there for. Pretty sure that the only, as it was confirmed last time to me, that the only people that have 4 Lombardi trophies on their rings are members of the Hunt family. But Mark mentioned that they always try to find a way to make sure that the ring doesn't leak out, that the players don't get to see it until they open up that box. So this year was a combination lock on the box. And when they revealed it in the room for the players, the code was 777. And it came up on the video screen as a slot machine graphic. So that's how it was revealed. That was how they gave the players the code so they could open up. That was kind of the Vegas connection. Mm-hmm. But they do have the Vegas Super Bowl logo on there as well. So there's definitely those keys. United was the team motto. It's on there as it always is. Player signature, also very cool. I mean, it's a sharp looking ring, Nick. I mean, it is huge. I mean, as long as so far just looking at the pictures of players having it on their hands, comparison to the other rings, I mean, it's a little bigger. They're all huge, Nick, but it's a sharp looking ring.
Hey, they did everything possible to earn it. So I mean, I'm not gonna knock the ring in any way, shape, or form because that's a lot of time. That's a lot of sacrifice in terms of just being in the facility day in, day out, believing in what the coaches are telling you, believing in what your teammates are telling you. And so, like, to me, those rings are representations of everything that you did paying off. Like, I know that sounds simplistic and everything, but sometimes in life you may need a reminder that the path you went down and how tough it took to get there, that it was worth it all. And I hope those rings are those reminders for each one of those guys that this is why you did what you did. This is why you sacrificed the time you did. This is why you either rehabbed the way you did or did what you did in the weight room or in any way, shape, or form. You did it to get something like that you can have till hopefully the end of time.
Yeah, and a lot of former Chiefs who are now with new teams were there tonight as well to get their rings. Willie Gay, saw him, Tommy Townsend, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Marquez had a very good line, I thought, talking about it is, that why he wanted to be there tonight. It's an opportunity to, for him to really say, kind of have a final moment with his teammates. He won 2 Super Bowl rings with this team, and it's his opportunity to, and he said, even for all the highs and the lows and everything that you go through, this is it. I mean, this was his last chance to kind of be with this group and, share all those memories and be with his brothers and all that. I mean, it's an emotional thing. And this was quite a party too. I mean, the Chiefs invited all of their employees, so just about everybody was there. And as like Mark Donovan mentioned, I mean, you work in game ops, you answer the phones, you work in sales, you were invited to this along with, you got a +1. So over 800 people at this event. It was a wonderful event. The Nelson Atkins was an incredible backdrop. I will not even complain about how hot it was because nobody wants to hear me complain, Nick, but it was hot.
I have no doubt when I stepped, because because I only got to catch part of the tail end of the feed when I got back to the station because I was out shooting video and I got interviews with Logan Minnick, the head coach at Kearney, and Ty Williams, the running back at Green Valley, and then he shares the last name as me. It was an honor to interview somebody also with the last name of Jacobs, and Cohen Jacobs from Kearney. He's a wide receiver. Got to chat with all three of those guys tonight ahead of the All-Star game tomorrow. When you're listening to this, it'll be Friday night at DeSoto. So, but getting to chat with those guys ahead of the All-Star game that they're doing. So while you were at the ring ceremony doing that, interviewing people, I was out at Lee Summit High School, watching a football practice and getting to chat with some of the guys, and I may have gotten to see a handful of plays that I'm intrigued to see if they can execute them against Kansas. And look, Matt, I'm not gonna lie, I was in heaven. You know me, and when I'm on a football field, I'm in heaven. Even if I'm out there shooting video, like, and it was cool because they were completely fine with me being on the field and me shooting. I'm shooting behind the quarterback while they're taking snaps and, running that. And that's kind of the fun part about high school is the access that you can have that I could never do at a Chiefs practice, But I mean, hey, it's a football day. You and I started out the morning at Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes' press conference, and then I worked on some stuff at the station and helped Mick out till him and Aaron had to go to the ring ceremony across the street from our station. I've known, how long I've kept quiet where the location was, even though you knew the research I'd done.
You sleuthed it out before anybody else, before they even actually told us. So it was very impressive.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yes.
I did what I had to do. No, but yeah, no. So I mean, like, I'm glad that it's out. It's out there publicly now and everything, and that people kind of get to see the glimpses of the event and everything. But yeah, no, for me, man, it was a great day overall, man. Like, I mean. Yeah. Sports, and more sports. And then the Royals walk-off that Mick and I were watching there at the station in between, all that stuff. So quite the day, Matt. Quite the day for both of us.
Quite the day indeed. And we did wrap up the team's 3-day mini camp today. There was a light day for this team Andy Reid's, it wasn't always like this, but he's now gotten it to the day that the third day of the mini camp is just the conditioning test. Andy's getting maybe a little bit generous in his old age too, because Patrick says it's not as hard as when he first got there. And Andy kind of, let it know. This is really just a trial run. Nobody's getting cut. Nobody's getting in trouble because they didn't, pass the conditioning test. But it's a clue and an introduction to all these guys because they got to pass it when they get to St. Joe. So anybody who didn't pass it today knows that the next time they have to run it, if they don't pass it, there will be consequences.
Here's the first thing I'll say in defense of Andy. He's got a pretty good success rate the past 6 years,
Oh, yeah.
So however Andy wants to go about it, like, I was surprised Pat said that. I was like, oh, Pat, you're going to have to run a couple extra gassers or something.
He's going to add an extra gasser now.
Just like whenever Andy talked about Kelsey today, and he was like, hey, we can wear him out if he wants to. Like, just the way Andy said that, just how playful he said it. It's just funny. Like, Andy, here's what I've learned from Andy over the years. The more relaxed he seems, the happier he is with the work they put in. And I think he really likes where they're at and what they accomplished during the offseason program. By a lot of his comments, I think Andy really was very happy with where they were, what they got done, what they executed. Because, you and I can both say from each week that we got to watch, from a starting perspective, they were not sloppy once.
No.
In and out of plays, effectiveness, getting it done, getting the work done, giving max effort. Like, I'm not, for example, for people that couldn't be there, on the season. I believe it was season ticket holder days this week, right? On Tuesday, Wednesday. So if you weren't able to be a part of that, every single play, the running back will jog or sprint to the end zone to do that conditioning, those little type of things. So, I mean, from a running back room perspective, it's funny because they were doing that during rookie camp, and then that carried over each and every week, and every single guy, whether they were a rookie or not, we saw them doing that. Saw Derrick Prince do that every time. We saw Reese Zammit do that. We saw Bailey do that. And Ingram, I watch routinely do that. And Pacheco does it when he's not letting people know how they're doing on the field sometimes.
Hey, I'm going to add one more in there. You know who else I saw doing it?
Steele sprints to it.
Well, Carson Steele does sprint. Travis Kelce was doing it.
Yeah, he did that right in front of us. Yeah, the other day.
And that's a message right there. Because if Travis Kelce is doing that and you're not, oh boy, I am sure somebody's going to be mentioning that to you. Because like if Kelce could drag his 34-year-old body down to the goal line, you can certainly drag your 23 or your 24-year-old body down to the goal line. You can finish too. I'm with you. I mean, this week in particular, I thought that the offense was very sharp, and the one of the big reasons to me that really stood out is that this was the first time, Tuesday and Wednesday was really the first time that we'd gotten to see Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice on the field at the same time. We still haven't gotten to see Xavier Worthy, but Nick, when you see Brown and Rice on the field at the same time, and then you add in Travis Kelce, I mean, I don't know how defenses are going to stop that. Yeah. They are just so smooth on the field.
Yes, when those three are collectively there together, like they're going to put fear in some defenses around the league, just because each one. Here's what's unique about them, and then I was smiling a minute ago because something popped in my head, and I'm gonna say that to you now, and we'll get back to it because I'm gonna forget it if I don't say it to you. You remember when Pacheco started chirping on Wednesday, and then Spagnuolo responded to him?
Yes.
I had to cover my mouth so like nobody could see me laugh because I didn't want to be unprofessional. But oh man, this Spagnuolo, was he having fun with that? Oh, I love that one. So I just thought of that moment when you were talking about Kelce near the end zones. I was like, okay, that play happened. Kelce, ran by us on that one. Brown ran right to me on the back pylon throw and red zone work, and I made sure I got out of his way so he could decelerate and didn't have any issue there. And then hearing Spagnuolo that one time. Oh, those are my highlights from Wednesday. But going back to the three that we were talking about there, each one of them has Patrick Mahomes' trust, and Brown is building that very, very quickly. He's building that at a Juju Smith level, if not quicker. So what I want people to understand about that is if Pat has three people he is able to rely on that he believes will catch that football, and he can place it there even in tight windows like he did with all three of them at various points when you and I are watching from minicamp to OTAs, that is a really, really good sign. That is a really, really good thing and a really good sign. And I want people to know that doesn't mean that the secondary is bad, doesn't mean any of that stuff, because both teams were given, you could tell when both teams were giving each other looks. As you and I both know, like it's a little bit easier to tell, especially when you're down on the field there, to tell when this side's giving looks for the other side and this side's trying to execute their stuff and everything combined. And especially when Spagnuolo makes his voice heard, you really know what's going on then. But it, like you said, man, just those three, they're such a complementary of one another, but they all have different unique skill sets that are going to require defenses to do a lot of different things to try to effectively stop them. And it's all, I'm not kidding when I say this, it's literally going to come down to how the left tackle performs. And if they can effectively take advantage of what those three can do. And then if they throw in Worthy or McCole or any other wide receiver, that's just going to be an added bonus.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the thing that people are going to be most excited about is Hollywood Brown as a deep threat.
Mm-hmm.
But, Rashee Rice as a yards after the catch guy is going to be equally exciting because watching him move with the football, his stride, his speed, his agility, his swiftness. I mean, he's just going to absolutely blow by some people because he is just absolutely that comfortable and easy with the football and running with it after the catch. But and I don't say this just because I asked the question. It was my favorite answer from Patrick Mahomes, though, because I asked him about the touchdown that he had with Hollywood Brown on Wednesday. It was a deep ball. I'm not certain of the blitz. Might have been a zero blitz, but it was a full house coming after Mahomes, and he saw it coming. Brown saw it coming. Brown knew that he just needed to get downfield and get the green grass the best way he could, and Mahomes understood where he was going based on the coverage, what he saw. Mahomes just threw it to a spot. I mean, the blitz was coming. He got rid of the football, threw it to a spot, and just trusted that Hollywood was going to understand where it was going to go, where it was going to be. And interesting because, when I asked Patrick about that, he's like, hey, back earlier in OTAs, we had the exact same play. It was an exact same moment, exact same kind of blitz. Pressure was coming, and they weren't on the same page. But they went through that learning example. They went through that experience now. And so the second time that it happened, Hollywood's like, okay, I know how Patrick's going to respond in this spot. I know where he's going to put the football. Patrick knows how I should respond to this. So if those two learn that, and I asked Andy about it too, and it's going to be in a story at Chiefs Digest, just how that one play to me really sums up the importance of this offseason program and what it can mean for this team. Because here's the thing: people were talking about the Chiefs taking more shots deep downfield. The reality is the Chiefs don't need to take more deep shots downfield. They took the exact same number of deep shots over 20 yards last year as they did in 2022. The problem was last year they didn't hit them. They just need to hit them this year. And if examples like that on Wednesday are what examples of what these two guys can do and add in the other players as well, Nick, I mean, this is going to be a deep down the field offense again.
That, but then the sneaky wrinkle that comes in their red zone work is...
I'm glad you're heading this direction.
Is the combination of Kelsey Rice and Jared Wiley.
Yes.
Like I'm telling you guys, where Jared Wiley may end up being the most lethal is the trust 15 already has in him in red zone work and where he knows he can place it. And he understands that Wiley can go climb that ladder and that Wiley's big enough and strong enough to be able to take that hit if he has to. And you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but of the tight ends I was watching on Wednesday and how they caught the football, because you know me, I'm watching every single time because, that's just what I do. And every single time when I was watching the tight ends run their routes because for people that don't know, when they were practicing on air, sometimes they do route combinations and then they let the receivers rest for a second. And then they have the tight ends run their routes that they're going to run for the day. So I like to watch, I love to watch the wide receiver combination. And then I get to see the tight end the tight end route. And I know they're all going together overall, but I just enjoy seeing them because I know I'm going to see them again in 15 minutes. And they're all going to be together. And then I get to see how it works within what they're doing coverage-wise and everything. So I watched how each wide receiver caught the football. And then I watched how each tight end caught the football. Jared Wiley is, and I hope I'm not jinxing him from down the road, but the way he catches the football, how proper he catches it, the way he plucks it, and on top of it, how sure-handed he was during OTAs and minicamp on the days we could watch. I'm just telling you, Mahomes trusts him, and I think Mahomes likes what he's seeing. And the complimentary words that Travis Kelce had to say about him and what Andy Reid had to say about him, I know why they're saying that because it showed up from rookie camp to every OTA and to mandatory minicamp. And that's what I'm saying, Matt, that in some ways it's kind of a benefit that we only get to watch one a week, because we get, like I've talked about before, we get to see those leaps. We get to see that. Now, you're just hoping that that guy can shine on each one of those days, but like you do get to see the jumps in each and every week. So I'm really intrigued, and I'm really looking forward to, once they get to preseason, once they get to regular season, what this receiving combination can collectively do together.
And why I'm so glad that you went down the Jared Wiley path is because what that guy can do vertically in the red zone and the end zone is something this team has not had in a while.
Right.
I mean, Jody Fortson was probably the only one that was that kind of threat, and Jody's biggest knock was availability. I mean, they just didn't get a lot of games out of him. Think about this. Jared Wiley is an inch taller than Travis Kelce, which is kind of surprising. To me. He's a big dude. But he's an inch taller. And if you look at their well, and for Kelce, I guess it was his pro day numbers, I believe, he had a 35-inch vertical. Jared Wiley has 37. Mm-hmm. So Jared Wiley, at his best, has a 3-inch vertical advantage over Travis Kelce. And I'm going to tell you right now, Travis Kelce doesn't have a 35-inch vertical anymore. So it's probably closer to a 6-inch advantage. That's significant because what we saw, especially this week, and Wednesday was a great example of that in the red zone, Patrick Mahomes can throw the ball 3 feet over Jared Wiley's head, and he can go get it. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
He can literally throw the ball 3 feet over his head, and this kid can go get it. And if you're 6'6", and your quarterback can throw the ball, and let's be just conservative, Nick. Let's say your quarterback can throw the ball 32 inches over your head. There's not a linebacker or cornerback in the league or a safety that can touch that football.
And not only that, but when they try to hit you on top of it with how thick he is.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, in terms of size wise, the two guys that from this draft class that always stand out when you're watching them in person is Jaden Hicks and Jared Wiley.
Yeah.
Both those guys, like when you see Wiley, you think he's going to be slower than what he is. And then you see him run and you're like, that's not slow at all.
Yeah.
Like for a guy that size to be able to move like that. Ooh, oh my goodness. But then when you watch Hicks out there, you're like, what's that linebacker doing wearing 21 out there? And you're like, nope, that's Jaden Hicks yet again. Like, I you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I genuinely believe Jaden Hicks size-wise is bigger than Tranquil. And I'm not going to say bigger than Chenal.
No, he's not bigger than Chenal.
But I'm saying I do believe he would be in the ballpark in terms of overall mass. I think he would be in the ballpark of potentially Willie Gay. Maybe not completely there, but within that ballpark. He looks like a linebacker out there, but he's a safety that can cover ground.
I think I may have said this last week, but I'm still confused because I keep looking at Jaden Hicks' height. I think he measured it at 6'1", 215 at the combine, and the combine numbers are real. That's not like the numbers you see on a NFL roster that sometimes they were just made up by an athletic director in college and have no basis in reality. But I think that dude's 6'1", 215. I would swear, Nick, when I saw him at the softball game, I'm 6'4". I could swear we were looking at each other eye to eye. He is huge. And for a safety, he is so freaking big. So
he can move. He can move.
Absolutely. There are two other defensive backs I want to mention because I think they're pretty critical as well. And we saw their development and most importantly, their playing time this week substantially increase. And that's Brian Cook and Najee Johnson. Mm-hmm. Brian Cook had a really good day on Wednesday. He had a pass breakup in the end zone that I think it was on Hollywood. I don't remember for sure. It was a tough pass to complete. It was in double coverage. It wasn't going to get stopped, but Brian Cook made sure and got up there and elevated and knocked it away to make sure it wasn't going to get caught. But he also had an interception off a Travis Kelce bobble. But Najee Johnson, both of these guys started at the beginning of OTAs going through positional drills. That was it. They weren't playing any 7-on-7. They're finishing OTA, finishing this mini camp as well. I mean, this is on the record enough for me to say Brian Cook's starter back in his old position. And Najee Johnson is rising up that depth chart in a freaking hurry. I mean, if he continues to play as well as he is and look as good and that knee holds up, I think you're talking about two guys that might be in the starting lineup by week one.
Yeah, that was the one thing I want to make sure I said on this podcast among anything else is I'm just telling you, some of the plays Najee Johnson's been making OTAs last week and then a mandatory minicamp this week, how smooth he looks, how his quarter turns look, how he's backpedaling, how he's rotating, how he's closing, all that combined. I'm not kidding when I say this. He looks like he's picking up where he left off at training camp last year and maybe a little bit more in a positive way, to where mentally he took serious advantage of that time to really work on that part of his game, the confidence he has out there when he's out there, and just how he seems sure of what he's doing, what he's reading. And when they were doing some of the motions, when they were moving some of the formations, how he was communicating with the rest of the secondary, and just how on point and comfortable he seems like he's starting to be in this defense. I'm just going to come out and say it, and I'm like Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson got competition from Najee Johnson around the corner here.
Yeah, and Jalen's been a little bit dinged up at the end of OTAs and minicamp, so we haven't really seen a lot of him in team drills. I mean, it's a deep corner group. I mean, I can't tell you for sure who's going to win the opposite spot opposite Trent McDuffie. I can't even tell you for sure who. I mean, I think Chamari Connor is going to be your nickel corner, but which cornerback is going to supplement him? Maybe be the backup. Be maybe a dime player. And I think that's a position that's up for grabs too. We did have two roster moves, I guess, technically speaking. The Chiefs had 4 defensive linemen that they brought in for tryouts during this mini camp, and ended up signing Alex Gubner, who was an all-conference player from Montana, graded up. I mean, that decent scouting reports coming out for the draft, Nick. I can't remember if he was on your board or not. If you got a chance to look at him much.
Oh, the Montana State kid?
Yeah.
No, it's Montana State. I can't get tape.
You can't get tape on that. But
that's not.
He had a great season. He's a defensive tackle, which I think this mini camp and the OTAs have underscored that the Chiefs are probably still looking for some bodies there. Even though, by the end, it was getting to be more, familiar with Chris Jones, Tershawn Wharton, Mike Pennell. You're going to get Derrick Nottie back at some point, but that's probably the extent of the Chiefs' depth right now. So there's probably some opportunities for him. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs still maybe looked at a veteran defensive end and an edge rusher. But I think with having 4 defensive linemen coming in for tryouts, Nick, Brett Veach is telling me he's probably still needs some defensive line help.
Here's the one thing I'll say, the impression that I took away defensive tackle-wise, since I didn't have pads on. Neil Farrell is a large man. Like, watching him, it looked like I've seen Dontari Poe back out there, because he's wearing Dontari Poe's number, if I remember correctly. And just seeing him up close when they were in the end zone right there by us, I'm like, holy heck, he looks like Dontari Poe out there, and he's got the same number. So, I mean, I'm interested to see if he gets moved around once the pads come on, or if he can be a space eater, because Pennell is one of the strongest human beings on the team.
Yes.
And that dude can walk people back. That dude wrecked the 49ers in the Super Bowl. And you don't want to see him out there on every single snap, but he does serve a really good purpose in helping them maintain what they need to run game wise, and really kind of keep teams from being able to run all over him.
I mean, let me just double check the old roster there, Nick, to make sure I'm not telling tales out of school. But
I'll look at mine too.
Mike Pennell is only going to be 34 years old this year. So I wouldn't mind. I mean, I even joked during the offseason. I mean, sign Mike Pennell, keep him around, get him on the practice squad if you can, and just say, Mike, we'll see you in November. We don't need to see you until then, but we want you to wreck some people late in the season, because he's 34 years old for Mike Pennell. I mean, I think he's only got so many snaps in the tank each year. I'm not going to undersell him because Mike's a tough dude, and I think he's an athletic dude too. So maybe he can do more than I'm giving him credit for. But I'm also saying that's a 34-year-old defensive tackle. I would just say I would want his best snaps in January and February, but. And that is probably, once again, why the Chiefs do want some depth, because I don't know that they want Mike Pennell being their number 3 defensive tackle or even their number 4, because I think they would like to be able to reserve him for later in the season when they want to knock some people around and dominate a little bit.
And I think they would like him early on too, especially week 1.
First couple of weeks of the season, you might like to have him, especially week 1.
And then you throttle back a little bit until that week 7 when, oh, hey, look, there's the 49ers. And then, oh, hey, here's the Buffalo Bills. Oh, yep.
The corresponding move to make room for Governor does surprise me, because I had been hyping the punter battle between Ryan Reckow and Matt Araiza being a great training camp battle. It's not going to be a training camp battle apparently now, because
not right now, at least.
Ryan Reckow was the player that they decided to move on from to make room. You're right. I mean, it's a punter. I mean, there's always a chance that they can bring him back. Maybe they felt like it was comfortable that he would clear waivers, and down the road maybe they could bring him back. Both those guys looked fantastic to me during OTAs. I would not have trouble with either one of those.
Right.
And Ryan Reckow, I mean, Dave Tobe said he's an NFL punter. Earlier in OTAs. So Matt Araiza is clearly, if he's the guy, I think the Chiefs are in fine shape. I'm a little disappointed tonight. It doesn't look like it's going to be a punter battle, Nick, but maybe we'll still end up with one. I don't know. Well, your mileage may vary.
The biggest thing I take away from that move is that they're comfortable with Araiza as a holder and how he can hold the ball on field goal.
Yep. That is absolutely, I think, the takeaway that I have as well. Any parting thoughts, Nick? Anything on your mind? Anything we haven't talked about that?
A guy who I saw getting a little extra explanation, as Jaden Hicks was a couple weeks ago, was some guy named Curtis Jacobs. And I think he's starting to show some flashes, and I think it's very intriguing. And he's somebody I'll be keeping an eye on once training camp starts, because I think Spagnuolo is taking a little bit of a shine to him. And I think he likes what he's doing on that football field and what he sees from him out there. I think the secondary battle is going to be very, very intriguing. Because, I mean, when you and I saw, we're not going to name them all, but when you and I saw the first team out there, that's a really deep. And this was one of their sub packages that was a really, really deep sub package.
Yeah.
From a secondary perspective.
I mean, don't get me started, Nick, on the reporting rules for a practice when there's 500 fans out there, and whether or not it's an open practice or not. And Mitch Holtz is doing play-by-play. Not a radio broadcast. I won't get into it, but I will say that the Chiefs' third team secondary, it's a really good secondary, and some interesting players on that. There are absolutely third team secondary members that are making this team. That's how deep that secondary is.
They get a talented group for Dave Merritt to be able to work with.
And Jacobs, not just you, but the linebacker Jacobs is, I do a list every year before training camp where I tell you, who are the undrafted guys, who are guys under the radar to watch for, to see if they can make a case for this team. He is absolutely going to be on my list. So there you go. And you may ask a question, when will training camp start? We should have the Chiefs schedule very, very soon. They traditionally put it out the day after minicamp ends. So normally I would say that you would see it on the Friday. Indication that it might not come out until Monday. But if you are looking to make your training camp plans, you will probably be able to do that here in the next few days. So be on the lookout and be ready to go early. Because when you play on September 5th, you start training camp super early, Nick.
Yeah, after I heard some dates today, I took some more PTO. So I got that situated there. So,
Well, we can say one thing because it's in the CBA that the earliest that the Chiefs can have their rookies and quarterbacks report to training camp is July 16th. And I have no reason to believe that might not be what happens. So blame the CBA.
silly CBA.
CBA. Well, now that the off-season workouts are completed, Nick and I will be getting back on to the 41 is the Mike Sunday schedule here.
Mm-hmm.
Guess we haven't really decided if we're doing one this Sunday or we're going to do it next Sunday.
No, it'll be next Sunday because this is our one for this week.
This is our one for this week. So
not diluting our numbers, Matt. Okay?
That's right. We would be pretty quick to come back with it. So you're going to have to just savor this one and maybe listen to it a second time between now and I'm thinking here the 23rd, I guess, was when we'll be back.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll have the Q&A on
the Q&A on Tuesday. Absolutely.
Q&A Tuesday.
But you're the Q&A Tuesday, and then we'll be back with the next 41 is the Mike on the 23rd. And we got some great off-season topics to cover. So I'm really excited about it.
Do you want to give them the next one?
I would be glad to if you're able, if you want to. I don't want to give away any secrets. If you want to.
We won't give them all of them, but do you want to give the next one?
I'll let you give the next one because you've got it in front of you and I don't have it in front of me.
It took me a minute to pull it up. I was stalling on.
I know,
so yeah, for the next 4 podcasts, there's certain things Matt and I are going to go over that I think will continue to intrigue you, will make you think, make you appreciate where they're at, and above all else, what you need to look for once you go up to St. Joe. Matt and I are going to do those. We're not going to give it in full because we are aware that the competition does listen to us. And we want to keep some things close to the vest. But we will let you know for the next one. We're going to do a roster assessment that will help you before you go up to St. Joe, where Matt and I see it at after the OTA practices, the mandatory mini camps, and the rookie camps, and just kind of a gauge before they put the pads on where we think they are. And a fun thing that could be for you down the road is you have this podcast coming up next week. You save that one, and then you listen to it down the road in August or something and see how much has changed once the pads come on.
Yes. When the pads come on is a magical day, Nick.
You do realize that's going to be the comment or quote that's going to follow me everywhere now.
When the pads come on?
Yeah. I'm okay with that because it's true.
I would be okay with that too because it is absolutely true.
Oh, and I found a shirt the other day. I'm going to wear it on the next podcast. It mentions good vibes. That's all I can say.
Well, I'm still going. I mean, I've got some planning here, Nick. I mean, we do need to make some merch available, and if I can't, sell some when the pads come on T-shirts for you, and create a little revenue stream here, I'll be very disappointed in myself.
That'll all be for you, okay? Again, the corporate learning module I took has specific things that I'll have to I would have to check with the legal team on.
Well, then maybe some T-shirt money we'll buy some barbecue. So
I don't know what the ramifications are. And I like my health insurance, Matt.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's episode of 41 is the Mike. A lot of fun with the rings, a lot of fun with the wrap-up of OTAs and training camp. Hopefully the Chiefs will not give us anything too crazy to talk about over the next month before they get to St. Joe. But got a month to get ready, Nick, and we got some things to talk about. So we will be back on your feeds and having some fun. So...
And before I go, the final thing that popped in my head, somebody's going to ask. We did see Kadarius Toney this week. He was out there on the football field, and it was interesting when they're doing some of their individual drills. They started trying to make catches tougher for themselves, and I will say, Remigio had a really good grab. Washington had a phenomenal grab, and then Kadarius Toney raised the level to see if he could make an even more impressive grab, and he did. So, and then McCole Hardman wanted to top that and did that. So whenever Brett Veach and Andy Reid and them talk about competition, those are the things that those little things add up that push each other to make the best roster possible. And that's why the Chiefs have had the success they have, because you wouldn't think that something as minute as that would turn into what it did. And you just saw guys just trying to challenge themselves. So I'm just saying, it was one of those little microcosms that I saw during there that I'm like, man, this is what you want to see from this wide receiver room right now.
Yeah, this team is pushing itself, and that's what it's going to have to do if it wants to three-peat. They're going to have to push themselves.
Yep, get that put on a ring. That's your goal.
There you go. Well, we will see you on Tuesday for the Q&A, and then back on the 23rd with 41 is the mic. And if anything crazy happens between now and then, you might see us, might see me at least. So
definitely on Q&As.
There you go. Appreciate y'all. Hit the likes, hit the buttons, do the reviews, do all those things. Anything you can. We appreciate it because it helps other people find the podcast, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. Click it, type it. We appreciate you. If you can help out other people find 41 is the mic. So with that, I'm going to leave it up to you, Nick.
That's right. As Matt says, you guys determine our success. And I've got a little imaginary friend somewhere running around here that really needs you to make this the number one podcast for Chiefs. So little Timmy Timerson over there is really rooting for you to write a review, put 5 stars, say positive things on Apple and definitely on the YouTube. So if you can do that, Timmy Timerson will salute you, imaginary wise. I don't know how that happens, but he's gonna do it. And so, yeah, Matt, I will close this out. Until next time, I'll bid you adieu.
You've been listening to 41 is the Mic, presented by KSHB 41, your home of the Chiefs and Chiefs Digest.